What do you want? Not what you should want, not what would be practical or impressive, not what others expect from you. What do you actually want? And for some people, this question creates a blank space where an answer should be. Their mind searches and finds nothing definitive. Or worse, it finds multiple contradictory answers that all feel equally valid and equally uncertain. They stand in restaurants unable to choose from the menu. They scroll through streaming services for 30 minutes without picking something to watch. They stay in jobs that don't fulfill them because they can't articulate what would. They remain in relationships that feel wrong but can't explain what right would look like. And this isn't indecisiveness in the usual sense. It's something deeper, a fundamental disconnection from their own desires, their own preferences, and their own internal compass. For many people who struggle with this, the pattern started early. Maybe they grew up in environments where their preferences didn't matter or weren't safe to express, where saying, "I want this," led to disappointment, criticism, or conflict, where parents or caregivers had such strong opinions about what the child should want that the child's actual desires became irrelevant, so the child learned to stop consulting their internal sense of wanting. They learned to look outward for cues about what the correct answer was, what would keep the peace, what would earn approval. And over time, that external orientation became so automatic that the internal signal, the one that says, "This feels right to me," got fainter and fainter until it was barely audible. Others grew up with too many options and not enough guidance in how to choose. Endless possibilities without a framework for evaluating them. Without anyone teaching them how to listen to their own responses, how to notice what generates genuine interest versus what just seems like it should be interesting. So they developed a relationship with choice that feels overwhelming rather than liberating. Every option seems equally valid or equally meaningless. Nothing stands out. Nothing calls to them. They're paralyzed not by scarcity, but by abundance combined with no internal mechanism for filtering. Some people lost touch with wanting because wanting led to hurt too many times. They wanted things they couldn't have. They wanted people who didn't want them back. They wanted outcomes that didn't materialize. And each disappointment reinforced the lesson that wanting is dangerous. That desire creates vulnerability. That the safest position is not wanting anything too much, not investing emotionally in any particular outcome, staying perpetually ambivalent so that nothing can really hurt you. This creates a protective numbness that extends to everything. If you don't know what you want, you can't be disappointed, but you also can't be satisfied. There's often a perfectionism underlying this pattern. The person who doesn't know what they want is sometimes actually afraid of wanting the wrong thing. They're waiting for clarity, for certainty, for the option that feels completely right with no doubts or drawbacks. But that option rarely exists. Every choice involves trade-offs. Every path has advantages and costs. And if you need perfect certainty before you can commit to wanting something, you end up frozen, unable to choose, because no choice is definitively correct. So you stay in permanent ambivalence, waiting for the one option that will feel absolutely right, not realizing that rightness often comes from committing rather than from choosing correctly. Many people who don't know what they want have become experts at wanting what others want. They're skilled at reading rooms, sensing what response is expected, mirroring desires back to people. Someone suggests a restaurant and they say it sounds good. Someone asks their opinion and they give one that aligns with what they sense the other person wants to hear. Someone plans an activity and they go along with it, not because they're manipulative or dishonest, but because they genuinely don't have a strong internal signal telling them something different. Or if they do, they've learned to override it so automatically that they don't even notice it happening. This creates a strange kind of life. From the outside, everything might look fine. You're agreeable, easy to get along with, flexible. You don't create conflict over preferences because you don't assert preferences strongly. But internally, there's a hollowness, a sense that you're living a life that's happening to you rather than one you're actively choosing. You're successful by external measures perhaps, but nothing feels deeply yours. You're in relationships, but not sure you chose them as much as they chose you. You have hobbies, but aren't certain they're genuine interests or just things you do because they seemed like good hobbies to have. Decision fatigue hits people like this differently than it hits others. For most people, decision fatigue comes from making too many choices. For people who don't know what they want, the fatigue comes from the constant internal searching that produces no clear answer. Every decision, even minor ones, requires extensive deliberation, not because the stakes are high, but because there's no internal preference to guide you. What to eat for lunch becomes a complex question. What to do this weekend requires research, consideration, weighing options, not because you're thorough, but because you're desperately trying to figure out what you actually prefer and finding no clear signal. Some people in this pattern have become addicted to research and information gathering. They think if they just learn enough about the options, the right choice will become obvious. So they read reviews endlessly, compare features obsessively, seek advice from multiple sources. But the research never produces clarity. Instead, it usually creates more confusion, more options, more perspectives, more information to process. And beneath all of it, the core problem remains. They don't know how to listen to their own response to the information. They're looking for external validation of a choice rather than internal recognition of what resonates. There's often a deep fear of commitment woven into this, because committing to wanting something means accepting that you might be wrong, that other options might have been better, that you're responsible for the consequences. And for people who struggle to trust their own judgment, that responsibility feels crushing. So they stay uncommitted, keep their options open, maintain perpetual flexibility, which sounds like freedom, but actually creates a different kind of prison. You're never truly invested in anything, never fully present anywhere, always half wondering if you should be doing something else, somewhere else, with someone else. Relationships become particularly complicated. When you don't know what you want in general, you often don't know what you want from relationships specifically. You might end up with someone not because you chose them, but because they chose you, and you didn't have a strong enough sense of what you wanted to say no. Or you stay perpetually single because committing to one person means foreclosing other possibilities, and you can't determine which option is correct. Or you cycle through relationships, always feeling like something is missing, but unable to articulate what that something is. The same pattern shows up in careers. You can't figure out what you want to do professionally because no option feels definitively right. So you either drift through jobs without particular direction, or you pursue something that seems like what you should want, what would be impressive or practical or make sense given your circumstances, but never feels genuinely yours. And years pass, and you're competent at what you do, but there's always a vague dissatisfaction, a sense that this isn't quite it, without any clarity about what it would actually be. Many people who struggle with knowing what they want have a complicated relationship with their own emotions. Emotions are supposed to guide you toward what you want and away from what you don't. But if you've learned to suppress emotions, to override them, to distrust them, then you've disconnected from your primary navigation system. You can't tell what you want because you can't feel your response to options clearly. Everything is filtered through thought rather than felt through the body, and thought alone, without emotional input, can't determine desire. It can only analyze, compare, judge. It can't tell you what actually resonates. Some people lost their sense of wanting through trauma or significant loss. They wanted something deeply, and it was taken away, or they invested completely, and it fell apart. And the pain of that loss was so significant that their psyche made an unconscious decision: never want anything that much again, never become that attached, never invest that deeply. It's a protective mechanism that works in the short term, but creates a muted, flattened existence over time. You're safe from devastating loss, but you're also safe from genuine joy, from passion, from the vitality that comes from caring deeply about outcomes. There's a difference between not knowing what you want and not allowing yourself to want. Sometimes the desire is there, but it's immediately followed by reasons why you can't have it, why it's impractical, why you shouldn't pursue it. So you experience a flash of wanting followed immediately by suppression. And if this happens enough times, you start to skip the wanting part entirely. Your mind goes straight to the reasons why not, and the original desire never fully forms or gets acknowledged. This creates the sensation of not knowing when really you're just not allowing yourself to know. Modern culture amplifies this struggle. You're bombarded with messages about what you should want: success, beauty, experiences, possessions, lifestyle. The options are endless, and the pressure to optimize is constant. Should you want a career or a family, or both, or neither? Should you want adventure or stability? Should you want this city or that one? This person or someone else? The cultural noise is so loud that it drowns out whatever quiet internal voice might be trying to tell you what actually matters to you personally. Social media makes it worse. You see curated versions of everyone else's lives and desires, and it's easy to start thinking you want what they have, or what they appear to have. But that's not genuine wanting. That's comparison, envy, fear of missing out. Real wanting comes from inside, from your specific history, temperament, values, dreams. But when you're constantly exposed to everyone else's highlight reel, distinguishing your authentic desires from borrowed ones becomes nearly impossible. People who don't know what they want often describe feeling like they're waiting for something, waiting for clarity to arrive, waiting for the moment when they'll suddenly know with certainty what they should pursue, waiting for external circumstances to change in a way that will make the right choice obvious. But that moment rarely comes. Clarity isn't usually something that arrives fully formed. It's something that develops through action, through trying things, through paying attention to your responses, through the process of elimination and experimentation. But experimentation requires committing to something without certainty, which is exactly what feels impossible. The paralysis becomes self-reinforcing. Because you don't know what you want, you don't take action. Because you don't take action, you don't generate experiences that could help you figure out what you want. Because you don't have new experiences, you don't develop clearer preferences. So you stay stuck in the same patterns, the same uncertainty, the same vague dissatisfaction, wondering why nothing ever changes, while not recognizing that nothing can change until you start moving even without complete clarity. Some people mistake not knowing what they want for being open-minded or flexible or easygoing, and sometimes those traits are present. But there's a difference between genuine flexibility and the inability to access your own preferences. Genuine flexibility means you have preferences, but can adapt when needed. The inability to know what you want means you're not adapting, you're lost. You're not being generous with others' preferences, you're disconnected from your own. Healing this pattern requires reconnecting with your internal signals, learning to notice what generates interest, what creates resistance, what feels expansive versus constrictive. It requires permission to want things, even if they're not practical, even if they might not work out, even if others wouldn't approve. It requires practice in small, low-stakes situations. What do you want for dinner, really? What sounds good without considering anyone else's preference? What would you watch if you weren't worried about choosing something impressive or culturally relevant? These small moments of tuning in rebuild the connection to your internal compass. It also requires grieving whatever made wanting feel unsafe in the first place. The childhood where your preferences didn't matter, the relationship where your desires were ignored, the losses that taught you that caring about outcomes only leads to pain, that grief needs space, acknowledgement, permission to be angry about what you didn't receive, sad about what you learned to suppress, confused about who you might have been if wanting had been safe all along. And it requires accepting that you might want things that aren't what you're supposed to want, that your desires might not make sense to others, might not fit the narrative you've built about yourself, might require significant changes to pursue. That's okay. Wanting is personal. It doesn't have to be justified or explained. It just has to be acknowledged and honored, even if you ultimately choose not to pursue every desire. The act of knowing what you want is separate from the decision of whether to act on it. Eventually, you might discover something surprising, that you've always known, on some level, what you wanted. The knowledge was there, buried under layers of should and supposed to, and what would others think. That the work isn't about creating desire from nothing. It's about removing the barriers that have kept you from accessing what was there all along. About turning the volume back up on the internal signal that got turned down so long ago you forgot it existed. About learning to trust that your wanting, however inconvenient or impractical or uncertain it feels, is valid, that you're allowed to want, that your desires matter, and that a life built around genuine wanting, even with all its risks and uncertainties, is more alive than a life spent waiting for someone else to tell you what you should pursue. You deserve to know what you want, and beneath all the noise, beneath all the confusion, some part of you already does.